Hello! Welcome back to my channel. I'm Julianne and I talk about books and my plans to have less of them, in short. So, the Julianne versus TBR project is currently going pretty badly. In fact, I would go so far as to say it's going really badly because I finished one print book in January and no print books in February. And it's hitting a critical mass. I do not have space for this many books. I have a big pile behind the camera of other stuff which needs to go in the cupboard, and in order for there to be stuff in the cupboard, room in the cupboard rather, I need to have room on the bookcases to put out nice things like Funko Pops and cool art objects and prints, things I've got in Luna Crate boxes, that kind of stuff. I need to make room for it on the shelves, so I need less books, and 2 months with only one print book finished between them and a print book I want to keep no less, it's not helping, not helping. So I am going to do something quite scary. I'm going to go on a digital books ban. So I'm not actually in a very good position at the moment to go on a digital books ban because I have, let's check, I have 2 audiobooks out from the library which have deadlines and need to be read in the next month. I have 1 ebook out of the library which again needs to be read this month. And then I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 comics from the library that I need to read. And yeah, so that's a grand total of 6 comics plus 2 ebooks. Plus 1 more, that's 9. That's 9 digital books. I could just do that this month. It could be a month where I just do that and nothing else. So, let me think. I was going to say I'm going to do a digital books ban for March, but that's not going to work, is it? Because I also have 1 NetGalley book that I need to finish this month. I think with great regret and trepidation that I'm going to have to go on a 2-month digital book ban, which I may extend to a 3-month digital book ban. You can see how horrified I am at this idea because I'm such a mood reader that I have been finding myself scrolling through the library system and just picking things to read. I ended up with so many comics out because I decided to scroll through every comic I could get at the library and pick some to read. Because I felt like reading comics and I felt like picking some comics myself rather than asking Nick for recommendations. Nick's my partner, he's really into comics. And yeah, so I got myself with this mess where I'm just reading a lot of digital stuff and listening to audiobooks and not reading what's behind me. So yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do a 2-month digital book ban and see how I go. Yeah, I think I got really into audiobooks again because I started wanting to listen to them while sewing. I had actually not really listened to an audiobook in months. I had several holds at the library that I just kept putting off till later because I didn't want to get them out when I wasn't going into work, because I used to always listen to audiobooks whilst getting ready for work in the morning and travelling into work. And then when I was tired in the evening, I'd usually listen to a podcast. I had a nice routine going on. And I thought, yeah, I feel really miss listening to audiobooks. So I'll start them up again. And I've just done too many. I'm now hooked on audiobooks again. And that is not getting down the print TBR. It really isn't. So here we are. Here we go. I'm going to do it. 2-month digital book ban. This must be how people who are really addicted to buying makeup feel. I was also addicted to buying makeup, but then one day I just decided I had enough and I was going to stop, and I stopped. And yeah, I've been on a more or less replacements only no buy since then, with a few exceptions. There have been a few cases where like I've been buying something and there's been like a free gift, so I have got an extra item of makeup that I wouldn't have been able to get anyway. You know, I've got the free gift with the voucher code, that kind of thing. But other than that, I have pretty much stuck to my makeup no buy. And it's been several years now. I just buy foundation, pretty much. That's all I buy. Everything else I have so much of. It took me several years to use up all of my backups of mascaras. And now I only ever have one backup at one time, and the only reason I have one backup right now is because they were on special offer when I bought them, so I got two. In fact, they may have been on free for two, because I think I had three, and I threw one away in the middle of last year, and then I started another one, and they haven't moved on to the third one yet. So yeah, so I never really struggled with that for makeup, with a makeup no buy, but doing like a book no download is actually, it's actually horrifying. I'm actually really anxious about the idea, but I think that's what I've got to do to get back in the habit of reading print books. I have to do something, and it's not like I won't have any audio content to listen to. I am so behind on all my favourite podcasts. I've got loads of YouTube videos to catch up on. There's just a lot of stuff, so yeah, I don't think it'll hurt, but I'm really anxious about it, so wish me luck. Yeah, there we go. That's the update. I'm doing a 2-month, possibly 3-month, if I can force myself. If I really miss audiobooks, I might let myself listen to some in May and try and like keep off the ebooks, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I'm going to try and do 2 months, and then, no, I am going to do 2 months. I'm definitely going to do 2 months, and then we will see how I get on. And if I think I should extend it to 3. I feel like in an ideal universe I'd be able to extend it for the whole rest of the year, but that's not going to happen. No, that's not going to happen at all. And I don't think it would be good for me to do that, because I want to keep up on current books, and to do that I need to be able to request books from NetGalley. So yeah, there we go. That's my plan. Let's move on to what I read in February. Right. So if you watched my January wrap up, you'll remember that I was reading the Jen and the Holograms comic series, and I read the Dimensions collected edition in February. So I think I actually started it in January, but then I finished it off in February. So it's a short story collection. It's all kind of short comics by different writers and artists, and it was really cute and really fun and really nice to see different takes on the art style. I definitely have a preference. I really prefer Sophie Campbell's art on John and the Holograms to everyone else's, but it was still really cool to see like a different range of artists and their take on the same characters. The character design is just slightly different between them, and that's really fun. Then I finished A Perfect Paris Christmas, and you're like, why are you finishing a Christmas book in February? I did actually start it at the beginning of January, and for some reason I just really didn't feel like reading an ebook right then. I was like going through a big audiobook phase and a big comic phase, so I took a really long time to finish it, but it was great. And do you know what? This is the second Mandy Baggott book I've read, and now I think I am a Mandy Baggott fangirl. Like after this one, I found her on Instagram and Twitter and followed her in both places, and I just want to read all her back catalogue. I think she's a really great romance writer. Her characters are just so realistic, and they have so much else going on in their lives other than the romance. They always have jobs that they care about and families that they care about, and it just makes them seem such wonderful 3D people. So A Perfect Paris Christmas is about a woman who she was in a car accident with her sister, and her sister died, and she needed it's a kidney transplant. She needed a kidney transplant to survive, and the kidney that she got was from a French woman who was involved in an accident in London at the time. This months later, she's still recovering. She's at her parents' house, and her mum is driving her up the wall because she's always like worried about her health, about what she's eating, about her safety, that kind of thing. You know, she's lost one daughter. She's pretty traumatized. And she gets a email from the mother of the woman whose kidney she ended up with, and she wants to meet. And so she it turns out this woman like co-owns a hotel chain in Paris, and she doesn't tell what is her name, the main character, Keely. She doesn't tell Keely that, but she does book her a room and pays for her to go over. So she and a friend of hers from work go over there together, and they're really excited about being in Paris at Christmas, and she's really nervous about meeting this woman whose daughter essentially gave her kidney, and she's really nervous because she's like, am I worthy? Is she going to think that I deserve this? And at the same time, the love interest also co-owns the hotel. He's been friends with I can't remember the name of the woman who died. So she was his childhood best friend who like brought him, he was a homeless boy, into her family, and then they started this they started the business together. And he's got a lot of issues with her family still, and he is also like determined not to like let anyone in his life, and he's really struggling with the loss of his best friend. And then they sort of meet by accident outside one of the hotels, and then they kind of like start spending more and more time together, and things get romancy, and he is really reluctant to tell her that he co-owns these hotels, and then she discovers who he is, and she's worried about telling him, and it's just there's just so many feels and such beautiful romantic moments, and it's Paris, it's Christmas, it's a great setting, and it's really, really good, and I enjoyed it so much. And as I said, now I am a Mandy Baggett fangirl, and I want to read all of her books. Yay. Speaking of romance, I then was on a bit of a roll. I listened to Romancing Mr. Bridgerton, which is the 4th Bridgerton novel, I think, by Julia Quinn. The first one I listened to on audiobook, and I went into this prepared to really, really like it, because it's the Penelope and Colin book, and it's one that people often say is their favourite, but actually I still prefer the 3rd one. It kind of lacked something, and this unrequited love, and that I often find is a really big hook. I find that really like works on my feelings, and it makes me really, really want to keep reading a book, and it did. But then at like the point of the marriage, I then lose interest, and I found that's actually the case for all of the Bridgerton books. When it gets to the marriage, I'm not so interested anymore. You can listen to the rest of it, I'll read the rest of it, but it's not addictive anymore. It's like I cannot barely put the book down, and then the marriage happens, and then I don't really care so much about the other stuff. And I think it's with these books in particular. I don't know what it is. I think it's because maybe there's so much beforehand that I kind of, in my head, it's kind of a bit played out by the time it gets to the marriage. I'm kind of trying to figure this out, because I don't think it's a Regency romancing, because I've read other Regency romances where I haven't had the same issue. I've also read other books where people get together and then have to sort out their like personal childhood traumas, deep running family issues, self-esteem problems, etc. So yeah, I don't know. It's just really consistent in these books. The only one that I haven't had that with so much was the 3rd one, but that's because I think there's much less after the marriage. It's such a lot of build up to the marriage, and then like it kind of stops after that, except for the 2 epilogues, which are a whole other thing. Not sure the 2nd epilogues are that necessary for me, but because I'm listening to like recent publications of these books, they do include 2 epilogues. So originally they just had 1 epilogue, and then the author went back and wrote a whole load of 2nd epilogues for the books, and now they're like packaged together, so you get the 2 epilogues in each book rather than them being separately published, which is nice, but they do often like spoil what's going to happen in later books, and I feel like they'd probably be more interesting if I read them at the end. So yeah, that's that one. Yeah, it was fine. I was entertained, but it wasn't as great as lots of people said it was. For me personally, I still preferred the 3rd one. What was the 3rd one called? Just gonna double check. Is it An Offer from a Gentleman? Yes, An Offer from a Gentleman. I much preferred that one. I just loved Sophie as a character, and Benedict, and yeah. But the 3rd one for me. The 3rd one for me. Oh god, you know the pandemic's been going on so long when you're making really, really bad jokes like that in videos. Okay, the next book I read was another romance, and this one I just fell head over heels in love with. And to be honest, it was no surprise because it was Rescue Me by Sarah R. Manning, which is about a man and a woman who co-adopt a dog for various reasons. She decides that she wants a dog. He decides that he wants to spend some time volunteering and looking after dogs, but like, you know, not actually have a dog himself. But then he gets roped into looking after her dog, or the dog she wants to adopt because she's got to go away for a week. And then they end up co-parenting, and the dog brings them together and they end up falling in love, and it's just, oh, it's so good. Again, the emotional issues that both people have with their family and their selves and their self-belief and what they want out of life, they just clash really, really, really deeply, and they have a lot to untangle and work through before they can get together. And it's just fascinating reading all of that stuff play out psychologically and through dialogue, and it's just, oh, it's just delicious. And lots of scenes describing adorable dogs in parks and on sofas and being naughty, and yes. If you love dogs and you love books and you love romance, this is definitely one for you to check out. And I did get that one free via NetGalley. And I'm a huge Sarah Manning fan. I have been since I was like 14, and I was reading her columns, the Diary of a Crush columns in J17 magazine. And I just think she gets better and better. Every one of her books, in the last few years that I've read, I have just really admired how much stronger she is as a writer every single time. You know, I read what she's doing, and I think, and I just really admire it. I see what she's doing that's different. I see what she's doing that's more in depth. I like how characters have become more and more real as the books have gone on, and it's just amazing. Yeah, not much more to say other than that. Now on to a couple of comics, or graphic novels. I read Violet Around the World, which I think was originally published in French, which I got from the library, which is about a girl who lives with a travelling circus, and it's quite cute. And she meets Toulouse-Lautrec, which is quite funny. Yeah, it's really cute, and the art is really cute, but it lacked something. And maybe it's because it was a circus, but they didn't actually do any travelling, and there wasn't all that much circus stuff. I don't know. I feel like if I had read it as a kid, I would have been really excited about the premise, but not like really got into the execution. And it's fine. I don't think there was anything wrong with it. It just wasn't for me, and that's okay. Oh, and Violet Around the World is by Teresa Radice and Stefano Turconi, and it says et al. on Goodreads, but actually on the cover of the book it only has those two people listed, so shrug. The next book I finished reading was another graphic novel, and that was Conspiracy of Ravens by Leah Moore, John Reppion and Sally Jane Thompson. I think it's set in the UK based on the fact that in one scene there is a sign that says comprehensive school on it. That's basically what I have to go on, because it could be set like in quite a few places based on the other kind of cultural cues. So basically it's about a girl at a boarding school who inherits a locket and a mansion from her aunt that she didn't know existed. Her parents want her to sell it as quickly as possible, but she's intrigued and she starts having these weird experiences of birds. And then she basically finds out that she and a bunch of other girls are the descendants of like this secret organisation who have magical powers and like did good stuff back in the day, and it's really, really fun, and the art is beautiful, but I felt like there was so much going on in this one graphic novel which doesn't have a sequel, and I didn't really get to know any of the characters. Even the main character, she didn't get that much time because there were so many other people to bring in. There was this huge mystery, And all in all, I felt like it was a bit rushed and I would have liked more space. And I'm sure that's not the fault of the writers at all, because with one thing I've learned from being the partner of a comic creator is that the more pages in a comic, the more the cost goes up considerably. And so, you know, I can imagine that they had to, you know, keep a lid on it for financial reasons. But I feel like it did the story a disservice and the character a disservice by kind of making it so compressed. Like, maybe if there had been fewer characters, if there had only been 3 girls instead of like the 5 or 6 that ended up with, there might have been more space for us to get to know them as readers. But yeah, it was just very, very fast. And yeah, with so much happening, I just felt like I just kind of wanted to get into the meat of it a bit more, you know. It felt kind of a bit shallow because it was so rushed. But I did enjoy it, and I would really recommend it. It's very, very beautiful, and the story is perfectly fine. I just wanted to get to know the people a bit more, you know. The next book I finished reading in February was The Lottery and Other Stories, which I had on audiobook, and I actually had been listening to for months and months and months and months and months. I thought this was great. I mean, Shirley Jackson is a master of the short story. I hadn't listened to or read any of her short stories before, so I was really, really intrigued. I was also really intrigued to listen to The Lottery because it's basically kind of like the kind of an inspiration for the Hunger Games, and what was quite surprising about this is it's actually at the end of the book. Quite often the title story in a short story collection is the first, or at least very early on. But actually it was at the end, which is cool. And the stories are just so varied, and some of them have like a really definite plot, but most of them have are just kind of like vignettes which make you think. And I really, really liked that, because that's the kind of short story that I struggle with, and it also doesn't come naturally to me with writing, to write that kind of like slice of life where you kind of get a suggestion about a character, you kind of get an insight into who they are, rather than there being like a very clear and defined plot thing that happens, if that makes sense. So yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. I gave it 5 stars, and I thought it was brilliant. The final book I finished reading in March was an audiobook, and that was The Way Past Winter by Kieran Millwood Hargrave. And this is essentially like a kind of fairy tale about a girl who like goes travelling through a very wintry, dangerous landscape to save her brother, who has essentially been like brainwashed, kidnapped by like a powerful a kind of powerful being who controls the woods and controls the weather. And yeah, it's really, really fun. It's a lovely kids adventure. It's quite a quick audiobook. It's not very long. I think it was 5 hours. So it only took me a couple of evenings to listen to it, and it was just a really nice adventure. I would strongly recommend it if you would like kind of like season appropriate tale. Because that's definitely why I picked it up. I thought, well, it's winter, I'm going to read a book set in winter, and I wasn't disappointed at all. It was great. So that is the end of my February wrap up and Julianne vs TBR update. Thank you very much for watching. Please give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and subscribe if you'd like to see more from me. If you would like to read more books but don't know where to start, check out my free e-course, Ignite Your Passion for Reading, Falling in Love with Books, which is linked in the description box below. And if you would like to read a novella set during the first UK lockdown due to COVID-19, I've written one. You're in luck. That is also linked in the description box below, so please do check that out. It's completely free. So yeah, I hope you enjoy it. So yeah, you'll see me again soon. I am now worrying that I'm going to have to re-record this video because I think better of my digital book ban for 2 months. But no, I'm going to stay strong. I'm going to stay strong. I'm going to do it. Thanks again for watching. You'll see me again soon. Bye.